Science fiction. What is the first thing that comes to mind? Maybe it's Star Wars, Star Trek, or maybe even Blade Runner. Science fiction is a genre filled with so many cool and awesome things, from science's plausible future to the fantastic worlds we can go to explore. The first franchise to really grab my imagination and to put my young brain in perspective was, for myself and many others, Star Wars. Back in the day, Star Wars to me was a fantasy world where you had the familiarity of today's rules and regulations, but there was just something to it that piqued my young brain's fascination. As I got older, however, I realized that Star Wars isn't a bright and happy universe that it may seem, and many people try to make it out to be. Yes, this franchise has toy lines and some of it's aimed for children, but Star Wars is dark, it's brutal, and there's a reason why the Jedi are afraid of the Sith. And when I learned that Jedi, and literally, in some cases, kidnap Force-sensitive children to force them into the Order, it's like my brain woke up. Star Wars has so much potential on telling dark stories with a mature writing style, but they never cross that line, or rarely push that boundary.
Do we take prisoners?
I don't.
And when George Lucas signed the papers to sell to Disney, that was it for me. I knew that it wasn't going to be the same anymore. After I finished up high school, a year later a movie by the name of Blade Runner 2049 was released, and by the look of the trailers, it piqued my interest and what I wanted from a sci-fi film and/or show. It was dark, gritty, and had this dystopian future feeling that everything you're seeing could be this grounded reality in due time. I came to realize this word and genre I didn't even know was called cyberpunk. Finally, after years of not knowing how to exactly describe what I was seeing and wanted out of science fiction, this was the word. I instantly typed this into Google, looking up what shows and or movies would be great to watch, and a common recommendation was a film made in 1995 by the name of Ghost in the Shell. I have to say, when I watched this, my first reaction was, damn, this is pretty interesting, but it's also a little bit confusing. So I did something dumb. I forgot about the film for a while, and then one day during COVID, since I wasn't doing anything, I decided to give it a rewatch, and this time, the movie intrigued me a lot more. I kept diving into theories of what it meant to be human. Does your quote-unquote ghost, which counts as your soul, still count if transferred into another shell? How far can cybernetic implants go until you're considered a machine? It is fascinating to think, as well as have this movie come out in the time that it did, and try to ask the audience, quote, what do you think? After quickly becoming one of my favorite films for me, I went about my life for a couple of years, only to Google the term Ghost in the Shell again, because it was just something I kept thinking about from time to time. And lo and behold, I saw that Ghost in the Shell had a show called Standalone Complex. I got very excited. So I looked at all the streaming services there were, and not a single one had it available to stream. I kid you not. Lucky enough, the Blu-rays on Amazon were cheap, and I took a chance and bought the first and second seasons for a total of like 20 bucks. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the best sci-fi shows I have ever seen. Have you ever watched something and just thought to yourself, this is everything I wanted out of a television show?
Oh, that's that good shit!
That's exactly how I feel about Standalone Complex. When working on this show, Production IG wanted to expand the world of Masamune Shirow's original works, who is the creator of Ghost in the Shell. So therefore, the decision was made early on to, instead of being canon to the 1995 film, it was going to be a separate continuation. The showrunners wanted to create their own stories within the universe. Now, normally this sounds like it would be a bad idea for any other universe because, well, let's be honest, not everything goes together or can expand on fan favorites. However, it turned out it indeed wasn't a mistake, but one of the best decisions they could have made. The writers wanted to include as well as keep the overarching themes of the first film, asking audiences philosophical questions about true identity, the state of the human mind, and of course, the impact of technology. Obviously, making a TV show broadens the perspective of the universe, and the team behind this show had a monumental task of bringing this to the screen. Also, keeping in mind to the Western fans across the way because of how well the original movie was perceived in the United States. Production IG, as well as the writers, did not want to alienate anyone from what was going to be a massive project. But one aspect you can't ignore is music, and luckily somehow in the early stages of Production IG approached a well-renowned composer for the show in Yoko Kanno. If you don't know who she is, she composed soundtracks for Macross Plus, and maybe this one's a little bit of a small show, you probably never heard of it, but Cowboy Bebop, if that rings a bell? Yeah, she has an amazing resume. Yoko worked very closely with the studio and the writers to bring this cyberpunk world to light, tailoring her compositions to fit the mood and tones of the episodes. The show was becoming something of a sci-fi fanatic's dream, with a great studio behind it as well as talented writers and now a composer. This project had a lot of eyes on it, but after years of waiting, Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex would finally premiere on October 1st, 2002.
Straighten up your own act before whining about the world. Or if that's too much, wear a blindfold, zip your mouth, and live in a cave. Or the alternative.
Major. Assemble the team with an A2 loadout. Location 82D3.
Bato, you copy that?
Yep, loud and clear.
Standalone Complex focuses on Section 9, an elite and specialized covert police unit. Think of a mix between the FBI, British MI5, or the Russian FSB. They are a counter-terrorist organization and anti-crime unit. Obviously, they are not like regular cops.
We're gonna straighten you out!
This'll fix you! Now let's get that one!
Barnacles, did you see that?
Yeah, that guy had no front license plate. Let's get him!
They specifically deal with cybercrime or cybernetic life forms. The operatives that make up this unit are just as fascinating as the cases they are assigned to. Major Motoko Kusanagi, aka the Major, is the commander for Section 9. She is a full synthetic augmented cybernetic human. Basically in English that means her brain is human, but her body is a shell. Get it? Ghost in the Shell. Anyways, not only does her body give her great power in fighting because she is former military, she is also one of the best at hacking through networks and is very skilled in the arts of military tactics.
I've secured an escape route, but for now, let's get back to the lobby.
Bato is a former military operative of the Rangers and second in command to the Major. He is highly skilled in close quarters combat and has a straightforward attitude that I love. Seriously, the man can be very funny at times.
I'm almost at your location.
Roger. Don't run out into traffic.
I'll look before crossing, Mom.
Togusa is a former police detective that is mostly human, only having cybernetic memory upgrades. He is a great addition to the team, adding to the reminder of a supposed normal human being. He has a family, which most of the team does not have, and sometimes gets picked on from the unit for not having cybernetic enhancements.
What a waste of the money. If you need to rush here for target practice whenever there's a mission, I recommend you get a prosthetic body.
You're telling me I should become a cyborg too?
Well, it's just a suggestion. I'm not trying to order you around.
He is a favorite character of mine, and when you pair him up with Bato, it's always fun to watch. For the rest of the team, you do have those stereotypical positions like the hacker Ishikawa, who specializes in covert intelligence, Saito, who is a tactical sniper of the group that provides overwatch on many missions, and he is also very badass, by the way.
Destruction of target confirmed.
Boma, who is a bomb specialist, and Paizu is another investigator with street smarts and rumored to be formally connected to organized crime like the Yakuza. This whole unit is led by Colonel Section Chief Aramaki. This man is very interesting to watch mobilizing and utilizing his team of elite operatives. He always seems like he is one step ahead or narrowing down the possibilities and is extremely good at dealing with bureaucrats.
I came out here in order to deliver this.
And what is it? Order for the removal from public office for medical treatment? Remove? What the hell's the meaning of this?
This whole show showcases this unit's ability to deal with the problems and tasks that can't be handled by others except for the best of the best. It is absolutely fascinating to watch cases unfold to the point of you being so invested, you slowly catch yourself binge watching the whole thing. Obviously, with Section 9 being an elite unit, you will see some amazing technology that goes along with it. Everything from the weapons being inspired by FN, which is a weapon manufacturer with the classic P90 silhouette, to the futuristic tuna that is the FN F2000. And who can forget the most badass thing, which is thermo-optic camouflage.
Hands in the air.
It is some cool shit that they have. What's also very interesting is some of the tech that they use in the show, which was thought to be far-fetched in 2002, is used today, which is unbelievable. If you think I'm kidding, listen to this. Even the most simplest inclusions of things like FaceTime being on your phone, drones being a bigger part of a military operation, which in this case are shown as the Tachikomas. They're fascinating drones really and can be very funny.
Our optical camouflage visibility index is definitely going to shoot up. Our gaskets won't corrode, will they?
Quit your whining. Just be thankful you don't have a sense of smell.
Is there an unpleasant odor? We can analyze it with our sensors. Boma's discomfort index is at 68%.
Shut up.
Neuralinks for the human brain, or the biggest one that people think is just normal now, is AI.
That sounds just amazing.
It is very unsettling how plausible this show makes everything seem because of how grounded it actually is. I mean, for crying out loud, even one of the quote-unquote main villains of the show has a grudge with the healthcare industry, which I don't think I need to remind you of what just happened a few weeks ago.
Oh, damn. I'm sorry.
Things you might not give a second thought to today that are shown are actually in some ways are a reality now. When creating this show at the time, it was rumored to be one of the most expensive anime ever, and is still rumored to be one of the most expensive projects ever produced in the industry. It's hard to give you a concrete figure of what this show cost because when you look online, the ballpark estimates are everywhere, and many studios never disclose the money that they spend to the public. I mean, seriously, I even bought an old magazine to try to figure out some information and see if there's any hidden details, which I could not find. What is concrete is that this show had over a $5.5 million investment back in the early 2000s that was handed off to Production IG, which is unheard of at the time. If you want to be particular, adjusted for inflation, this is nearly $10 million. That's not including pre-production or other things when calculating this process. That means that roughly each episode of the show cost north of $200,000 to $300,000 to produce. And I wouldn't be surprised if some episodes cost more, which if you browse online, there's a rumor that they do. Just to put this in perspective, an average cost for an anime with 12 to 13 episodes can range anywhere from $2 to $5 million per 2023. This show has two 26 episode seasons, so I hope you can see what I'm trying to get at.
Wow, that's a lot of money, boys and girls.
The amazing thing is that even though with a risky investment and a very young director as well as writer by the name of Kenji Kamiyama at the helm, the show is fantastic. Standalone Complex in both of its two seasons demonstrates not only mature storytelling, but it doesn't treat its viewers like an idiot.
Well, I'm an idiot.
Not insulting the viewer's intelligence makes for a great time because it's like you're actually involved with the case that's being presented to you. There are very few shows that demonstrate this level of writing, and for me personally, some aspects remind me of HBO's The Wire. Yeah, it's that good. But what are some of the cases that the team gets put on? Well, there are a variety of them. You see, the show divides episodes up damn near perfectly, with each episode either being a standalone one, which is like, a standalone episode from the overarching case.
Well, No shit.
And then you have your complex episodes that deal with the main case of that season. In season 1, you're dealing with the so-called Laughing Man, an infamous hacker that is elusive as he is a mystery. Season 2, you're dealing with a terrorist group called the Individual 11. Now, normally what happens in shows is that at some point the writing can decline or not be as good, but that just never happens. Season 1 is not only a fantastic season, it sets you up with how the formula of the show is going to be. While some do prefer Season 1 over Season 2, I personally found Season 2 to be better, albeit a bit of a slow burner at the beginning. It's very rare and extremely difficult for any writer and or showrunner to keep pacing or to deviate to tell a separate story that is just as intriguing as the overarching plot. The standalone episodes that the show has really emphasizes the world building and the characters. The best way I can describe them is that they are self-contained yet thematically linked. For example, in Season 1, Episode 10, Section 9 is alerted to a serial killer in the area. The killer is basically taking prostitutes and hacking into their optics so that they can see in real time what the killer is about to do to them. The killer then goes and sells the recordings to street vendors of his victims. It is a very dark episode which then elaborates on Bato's past of him being an ex-Army Ranger.
Satisfied? That monster you created is doing a top-notch job carrying out his mission.
Which is why we're here to retrieve him.
To retrieve him? You
Stop
piece
it!
of shit!
Strangling him won't help anything. Come on, let him go.
He won't get away this time because I'll make sure I kill that sick maniac.
The episodes not only give you, the viewer, more information on what this group deals with on a daily basis, but also taking these characters and going on a more in-depth trip, but not too much to derail the overall experience. Remember how earlier when I mentioned the big budget for the show? Well, you could probably tell by now that the animation for what you've been seeing is spectacular. I mean, honestly, if you told me this show came out a year ago, I would believe you. Yes, there is some dated CGI that will be badly placed sometimes, but other than a bad frame like once every 10 to 12 episodes, it's phenomenal. The miraculous attention to detail, whether that be characters, scenes, backdrops of cityscapes, it is stunning nonetheless. Now, I know a lot of people prefer subtitled over English dubbed when it comes down to anime, and I get it, but I'm just not one of those people. The English dub of Standalone Complex is so well done. Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, who actually won an award for her performance in this show for her role of the Major. Richard Epcar, who voices Bato, delivers some amazing performances as well. In short, the Standalone Complex dub stands out because it respects the original material while being crafted by experienced professionals who understood the importance of preserving its intellectual and emotional depth that made it so special in the first place. Even though I briefly mentioned Yoko Kanno's soundtrack earlier, as soon as the show begins, it sets the tone for the whole entire atmosphere. She fuses everything from classical orchestra to jazz, electronic, and rock. I wish I could show you and you could listen to how when everything culminates, it brings the experience to another level, but YouTube's Content ID system flagged the video a couple times, so you just have to take my word for it. For when the action goes down, the music is right there to back it up.
What are you doing?
Despite its brilliance, Standalone Complex remains underrated, often overshadowed by more mainstream sci-fi giants, which is very ironic considering that the movie sparked and inspired lots of sci-fi ideas like, for instance, The Matrix, which was a big one, and of course Altered Carbon. It's a travesty that a show with such rich storytelling, complex characters, and visionary themes is so rarely mentioned in the quote-unquote best of conversations. This series isn't just a must-watch for anime fans, it's essential viewing for anyone who loves science fiction or seeks stories that push the boundaries of what television can really achieve. After the show's conclusion following the second season's finale in 2004, the series of Ghost in the Shell did try a soft reboot with Ghost in the Shell Arise in 2013. It consisted of 10 episodes and was a reimagining of the franchise. And honestly, it's not bad. I do miss the old English dub crew from the original show, but even with that, the writing is still good and the new cast does a great job with their roles. Now, the big elephant in the room, and the one that's a bit of a problem, is Netflix's exclusive by the name of Standalone Complex 2045, which is a sequel to the original show, which we're talking about now. Look, I love this franchise with all my heart, alright? But this, I mean, just look at it. The animation just feels cheap at times and looks so unserious. Not to say that there aren't any good shots, but it's just not great. They do bring back some of the old voice actors, which do a phenomenal job, but I just can't get through it. A series like this doesn't deserve this kind of animation. But finally, after years of waiting after the 3D CGI craziness in 2022 and not having a regular animated show since 2016, a studio by the name of Science Saru will be premiering the new Ghost in the Shell that will be faithful to the original manga. Don't know them? Well, they produced an awesome series called Dadan Dadan, which I think has been so weird and crazy that it is unique to say the least. The animation quality of the series, the sound design, everything. So to tell you that I'm excited about their upcoming project in 2026 is a complete and utter understatement. If you ever pondered the implications of artificial intelligence, questioned the essence of human identity, or wondered what it means to truly exist in an interconnected world, Ghost in the Shell standalone complex is not just a piece of entertainment, it's a work of art, a cautionary tale, as well as a hopeful and philosophical journey rolled into one. It's time we start giving it the credit it deserves. In a genre overflowing with imitators, this show stands apart, a true original that not only deserves to be mentioned among the greatest, but has earned its place as one of the best sci-fi narratives of all time, and redefining what is thought of when you think of the word cyberpunk.